Discussion keeps the world turning.
This is Roundtable.
It was a day of remembrance when people across China honor their departed loved ones. Over the weekend, the country marked another Qingming Festival or Tomb Sweeping Day. And a central tradition to this occasion is just that, visiting gravesites to clean and tend to the tombs of those who have passed. But there's also more to Qingming. We explore the long-standing customs in modern times. Coming to you from our studio in Beijing, this is Roundtable. I'm Fei Fei, and for today's program, I'm joined by Niu Honglin and Steve Hatherley. And first, on today's show. The past weekend, millions of people across China packed up their bags, headed to train stations, and made their way home or to the countryside for one of probably the most important traditions on the calendar, the Qingming Festival or the Tomb Sweeping Day. It's a time to honor our ancestors, but also to welcome spring with open arms. And this year, things look a bit different, with new regulations changing how funerals and burials are managed, pushing for greener and more affordable options. At the same time, there are also people taking advantage of the public holiday and extended to a 6-day spring break for families and students. How are they enjoying the springtime? And also, how do you honor the past while embracing the present? Hello, Honglin and Steve. Welcome.
Hey.
This is my first time sitting in this chair.
Yay! But it's not a really happy occasion, to be honest, talking about this topic.
Oh, I thought you meant Fei Fei hosting the show.
It's a serious topic.
Yeah, it's a serious event, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's more serious than I realized. There are so many traditional Chinese holidays. There are a lot of solar terms. By saying a lot of, I mean 24 solar terms here in China. And this one is a little bit special because it gets to have a public holiday, which makes it a little more important than other solar terms, than other traditional holidays.
Yeah, I mean, this is a time of year. It's important to have the time off because you go and you see your family members who have passed and you take care of their sites and make sure that they're well kept and spend the day remembering.
Yeah, I think there are multiple reasons for this day to be viewed as one of the most important traditional holidays that deserves this public holiday. It is usually celebrated 15th days after the spring equinox, which means it's already the starting of the spring period. And like Steve has just said, it has something to do with tomb sweeping, which has been the English translation of the festival, but I still want to call it the Qingming Festival because calling it Tomb Sweeping Day is a bit too generalized, and also labeling it only with this one activity.
Yeah, and when it comes to the Chinese name, Qingming actually means completely different to tomb sweeping. Qing meaning clearness and Ming meaning brightness. So you can see it's more than just tomb sweeping, but tomb sweeping is kind of the central topic of that day. But when we going back to history, Qingming Festival is also linked to another festival, right?
Which is the cold food festival, 寒食节. To be honest, this is my least favorite Chinese traditional story related to a festival, which is why I'm not going to explain it. If you really want to go check out the story, you can go do that. Because I
Thanks
think
for tuning into Roundtable. If you'd like information, please find it somewhere else.
you can go check out the shows last year, the year before last year, and all of the years.
What's your problem with this one?
Because I think it has something to do with a tragic fire accident in a mountain, in a forest area, which is not something that we like. And the fire is not even an accident. It was lit by certain people in the story. And what you need to remember from this is that, to start with, the Cold Food Festival is usually around the Qingming Festival, which is why these two festivals are always talked about together. And the reason that now we call it the Cold Food Festival is because the tragic fire that started in the mountain by certain people by accident, no, not even by accident, on purpose, is not honored, it's not cherished, or is not celebrated. We do not like a fire in the forest. So on that day, in order to remember that you don't start a fire in a forest, in a mountain, we eat cold food. We don't start a fire at all.
Interesting. Last year, I don't think I learned about this one. So that means from breakfast time until nighttime, all the food that you eat throughout the day is meant to be cold food.
That was the essence of this cold food festival, but it's no longer that widely celebrated among Chinese people, which means in modern society, we do not have this cold food tradition anymore. We just remember it as an old festival that has something to do with the Qingming Festival.
I see. So the Qingming Festival... it's been around for hundreds of years.
Hundreds of years.
How is it celebrated in modern times then? Sorry, that doesn't feel like the right word.
Yeah. How do you say, when you greet people on the Qingming Festival, what is the proper way to greet people? Definitely not Happy Qingming Festival.
Which is kind of confusing because you have the word festival in there, so it leads you to believe that it's something to be celebrated. But again, I apologize. That's probably the wrong choice of words.
I think it depends on how you view the Qingming Festival. If you view it as the starting of spring, it's when the looming winter days wear off and you start to have this clear and brightness in the air that you can finally start enjoying spring, which is a very important part of the Qingming Festival. Yes, you can say happy holidays. Maybe not directly happy Qingming holiday, but happy holidays would work. And also you can wish people having a good Qingming holiday, because on that day, yes, tomb sweeping is a thing. But I didn't used to know this. But to be honest, in different families, in different parts of China, people quote unquote celebrate or spend or observe the Qingming Festival in different ways. For some families, no matter where they are, they would go pay tributes to the past ones. For some others, I think the Zhongyuan Festival might be even more important to them. It's kind of like the Chinese
Ghost Festival
in a way, because they believe that was the day that those deceased ones would go to where we live and visit their family a little bit, which means on that day, if you have a message to send, you can send it. And for some other families, they would pay their tributes to the past ones during Spring Festival period of time, because it's also the time when the old year ends and the new year start. It seems like a good occasion to report back to the ancestors.
It's also the time when all family members are together during the year.
Yes.
So from what I understand, yes, tomb sweeping, although it might not be a great translation, it is part of the holiday where you go and you clean up the gravesite and things like this, but you also offer things as well. That would be tea or snacks or flowers. What do you do there?
Well, in tradition, it depending, I think, first of all, what the past loved ones like. Like, for example, like sweet things, you probably burning. How do we send the message to our ancestors? Mostly by burning things. And so in traditional sense, sometimes you burn money, quote-unquote money, that you can be used in another world or something else, gifts that you wish to send.
That's not real currency, though,
No.
right?
Of course not. Yeah. But in modern times, I think things are more simple now. That, for example, offering flowers, something like chrysanthemums, will be the central when we're trying to pay tribute to the ancestors. And there are, of course, other things. Well, depending on the regions that you are living in.
Yes, for my family, Qingming Festival was not always the time you would pay tributes to the past loved ones. It's usually the anniversary of the funeral for my family, but for some families, it's the Qingming Festival. And what our generation do is more like visiting the past ones. If they like a certain dish, you know they like it, you just bring the dish right in front of their tomb and just talk to them. There's that. And one thing that's more nationwide, in my opinion, would be pay tributes to the past generations that have been contribute to what we have nowadays, the martyrs. Those are generally nationwide and in different parks and different public areas of the martyrs. There will be ceremonies, and some of the ceremonies are even open. I think many of the ceremonies, most of them are open to public. You would see young kids learning the stories of the past martyrs so they know what they have done to help the country be what it is today, so that they can pay tribute, so they can learn about the stories. They would even have a little speech dedicated to the past generations, the older generations, telling them, thank you, and we're living a really good life here, and we still remember what you have done.
The only similarity I can find in Canadian culture is that you would visit the grave site perhaps on the anniversary of the passing. But again, it depends on the person, it depends on the family. There's no specific festival, there's no specific time of year where it's an organized event. You can go as a family, you can go as an individual. Flowers, I think, would be the most common thing to bring. But as far as I know, that's not about making an offering or anything like that. We don't bring foods or snacks or representative things to burn or anything like that. Just visit. But you can visit whenever you want to.
Sure.
And some people do that, actually.
Well, the thing about Qingming Festival visiting is that because it's a national holiday, the extended family can go visit the ancestor together, which is a bit more official in a way.
Complicated also in rituals when it comes to traditions. Because I remember in my father's hometown in northeastern part of China, they have a lot of rituals and traditions surrounding, how are you gonna supposed to pay the tribute to your ancestors? Who can go on what period of time of the day, and what things you can bring. So it can be very complicated. But I think in current days, especially in city areas, things are more simple. I think, for example, for my grandfather, sometimes when we don't have the time to really travel back, we'll just pay tribute online. There are also a lot of online mourning sites that you can offering virtual gifts or incense burning, so that you can still be, remembering them through these virtual platforms. It is also a kind of a new practice in modern times. But I think this year in particular, we have a new regulation coming out, which took effect on March the 30th.
Yes.
Right before the Qingming Festival. And there are a lot of revised regulations when it comes to this kind of practices. When trying to paying tribute to ancestors, to their visiting their tombs, and also to their funerals and burials. There are a lot of new regulations, and also something unchanged as well.
It's quite a big document. The new regulations have 8 chapters and 73 different articles. So it's quite a significant paper.
Yes, because the updated rules frame funeral and burial services as an important part of public welfare. What that means is that previously we've seen people really, really, really believe in that my ancestor would be able to protect me, would be able to give me good luck, would be able to make sure that my future offsprings can get a good grade in schools, can get a good position in their workplace. They might go to the extreme, like buying certain kind of sites in a graveyard that is very, very, very expensive, like burning the kind of model that is made by paper, but is the model of a luxurious car or even a luxurious mansion made by paper, but it's very, very expensive. And these are not really rational, but if you view it as a commodity, yes, you can give it a really high price. I'm talking both about the site in a graveyard or this kind of model that you simply burn. I'm not saying waste it,
So
but just simply burn.
this is
But by making it a public welfare, we have a lot of regulation making sure that these kind of competition between different vendors in this industry will not affect those really rational ones.
Yeah, because it's a time when people can be a little, and understandably so,
Emotional.
emotional and perhaps irrational with their decision making. So I was going to say this is kind of like price monitoring a little bit. Oversight a little bit
Yes,
as well.
and making sure that there are still choices and promoted choices that are within the proper range when it comes to the price tag. And we can see there are certain regulations or certain
New systems putting
Yes.
in place.
Yes.
I think one of the biggest thing is a list-based management system. Because when it comes to more than tomb sweeping, but for example, in funerals, some people can go to the extreme as well. They are thinking that if I put on a very grand funeral, that means how much I care about the past one.
Showing your love that way.
Yes, but so when it comes to the business-wise, to these kind of services, because there will be people providing this kind of services, we are seeing some of the surges in prices. And now that regulation saying that if some kind of services and fees are not on their list, that means you don't have to pay for it. And so I think that's also the direction of public service, public welfare system that the regulation is trying to push forward too.
Interesting. This stood out to me as well. So in the new regulations, eco-burials, are going to be the new standard, and they're pushing quite hard for these eco-burials. So this would be a way to return to nature without occupying a permanent piece of land, like a tree burial or a flower burial or a lawn burial, or even if you wanted to, a sea burial too. So better overall for nature, I suppose.
Definitely, for families who opt for sea burials, the entire process from departure to the final placement of the ashes at sea is covered at no cost. And for families who choose natural burial, the government provides a subsidy of 4,000 yuan per case to designated service providers. So it's definitely a push for greener burial, because traditionally we see some families, especially the elder generation, they still believe in a place to pay their tributes. They do not really like the VR or AR version of paying tributes. Not even if you can scan a QR code and watch a video of the past life of this person. I find it quite cool, to be honest, but for some people it's just not serious enough. So for them, having a place to remember their ancestors by is very, very important, which this kind of mentality is definitely still respected. I think I didn't mention this in the beginning when I said different parts of the country have different burial-related rituals. I was thinking about Guangdong province, because in Guangdong province, some of the graveyard are not official graveyard. They're more like a mountain full of trees. And you have to remember which tree was the tree of the grandpa and the great-grandpa. And they don't even have a gravestone to remember it by, which means they have to go find the right tree. And some younger generation cannot find the right tree, so they pay tribute under the wrong tree, and their parents would correct them. It's not seen as something that serious. It's just part of the ritual. It's part of the local people's life, and they would talk to the tree for a really long time. So if that happens, and when that happens, no matter if it's in the countryside or on the mountain, these are definitely still protected. But for the younger generation, it is more encouraged to go to the greener side of this ritual.
Well, on a personal note, do you think this kind of regulation would really modernize, quote unquote, or change young people's perception when it comes to their choices of how they will be remembered in the future?
I would say yes, definitely yes. Because when it comes to important occasions in life, weddings, how you celebrate the first birthday of your kid, or the third birthday, which is also seen as something very important, and the way for burials. For the younger generation, I think a big part of how they decide on doing these things would depend on how their parents would want it to be. So
Yeah, that's
generation
a fair point.
after generation, one, you don't view the things the way your parents view it. And there are good enough reasons, no matter if it's subsidy or it's better for the planet, or in fact, you know that as long as you remember them by heart, it doesn't really matter whether or not they're there physically.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the WeChat mini program to honor your ancestors virtually. But that being said, if you simply can't make it, I mean, this is a huge country. So if you're on the other side of the country and you can't be there, then it's better than not being able to do anything at all. The oversights and the price monitoring and the list-based management policies are good. I like these ideas because it's not so much about making sure that the families don't overspend. It's making sure that the families aren't overcharged.
Exactly.
For things, which is a good thing. And then when it comes down to individuals, people will honor their past family members the way that they want to. And that'll probably change a little bit from generation to generation, but it'll probably stay a lot the same from generation to generation.
And the reason we're saying this is not only because we personally believe in it, but also over the past several years, we see more and more people opting for greener funeral, greener burial choices. So it is a trend, and I have shared this already, but let me do this again. I want to be made into a diamond when I'm gone, so it can be left in the family as a family
But you're
heirloom.
already a diamond. Niu Honglin.
Oh, that's so nice. So that's how, when it comes to festivals like the Qingming Festival, I think it carries like two folds of meanings. One is what we talked about, how we remember our past loved ones. But also, it's a time for people to gather. For example, family members gather for this occasion. And, it's the spring. People are up to outing in the springtime.
Traveling.
Enjoying the warm breeze of the spring.
Yeah, they're doing that. It's actually a little bit earlier than usual this time around. They're entering into a bit of a peak booking period. There's data from different platforms, travel platforms, that shows there's a rise in both searches and bookings for domestic flights. So with other holidays, you'll see domestic flights increase, but you'll see international flights increase maybe even more. For this time of year, though, and I'm thinking because it's a shorter break, people spend their time in different parts of the country.
But for this year, it's longer than usual for some people, those lucky young kids. We've talked about this on Roundtable. A lot of students in different parts of the country are enjoying their spring break and autumn break. It's not the usual spring break and autumn break in especially Western people's mind when
Like a school spring break?
it is a school spring break, but it's usually 3 to 5 days, but added onto a already there public festival, which means if your parents would like to also take some annual leave and add the spring break with, for example, in this case, Qingming Festival, or for some other schools in some other places with the Labor Day Festival or the Workers' Day Festival, you can get a longer holiday. For this one in particular, we see, for example, students in Chengdu, they are rolling out the spring break period for 3 days and added with the Qingming holiday, which makes it 6 days. And if it's 6 days, it's really nice for a domestic little short break.
That's longer than last year?
Definitely, because usually it's 3 days.
And that's why we saw a 25% increase
That's a lot.
in tickets that have been booked for domestic routes between those dates, April 1st and April 6th. That's 25% more than last year. And that explains why.
Is it just connected to Chengdu, Sichuan province, or are we seeing more such practices, elsewhere? Is it just about the school kids?
Well, for the spring breaks, yes, it's about the school kids. But I think we mentioned this when we were discussing the special break days for kids. That is, for different provinces and sometimes even for different schools, they can decide when exactly their spring breaks or autumn breaks are, which means it's not a huge difference, but if you separate those 3 days, 1 day before the Qingming holiday and 2 days after, the travel peak would not happen that drastically, which means the price of the ticket would not be that high, and also the traffic would not be that bad, and also the people in the destination would not be that many, which would make the entire process much, much, much more enjoyable.
And speaking of destinations, I'm wondering, like, where are people exactly traveling to during this Qingming Festival and also during the 6-day spring break for a lot of families and school children out there? What kind of activities are they planning to do, actually?
Well, because it is the starting of the spring, you can enjoy the spring. So most of the places that are beautiful during springtime would be more popular. We talked about Chengdu. There are also Yunnan province. Kunming is famous for having a lot of different types of flowers. So flower viewing would definitely be a key element in the essence of the springtime travel, which means it's a theme for the Qingming Festival travel. And when it comes to different activities, of course, different places are already rolling out activities or rolling out campaigns for tourists. You can enjoy flowers while enjoying local culture. You can have Qingming-related theme food. We didn't mention this, but Qingtuan is a traditional Qingming festival food.
What's Qingtuan?
Qingtuan is kind of a sweet treat, in my opinion. When I was younger, I didn't used to like this much, but now I'm getting why people love it. It's a sweet green rice bowl. It is made of a mixture of glutinous rice powder and green vegetable juice and stuffed with sweetened bean paste. So the bean paste part is very sweet and nice and even creamy somehow. And the outer area, the glutinous rice area, is very chewy.
Healthy by the sounds of things.
It is healthy, but
It's also sticky, made of sticky rice.
yes,
right?
but I think the green vegetable juice part is giving it a very refreshing kind of feeling, which is great for spring period.
And while you're out enjoying your green juice sticky rice treats and all the beautiful flowers, maybe you can fall in love. I thought this was pretty funny. There was a college, a vocational college in Sichuan. It made headlines, as a matter of fact. It told students and teachers to put down the books, go see the flowers, and even fall in love.
And teachers. The and teachers part is already in the official announcement of the school.
Yes. Students and teachers. I think it was just a step to maybe encourage people to enjoy a little romance while they're at it.
When you are under a flower tree, the peach blossom or the cherry blossom with the petals falling down in the color of pink, and young couples meeting under the tree, and the spring breeze just gently brushes your faces. That is the perfect time for a romance. It sounds like a plot from the romance story. And so I think we also talk about flower viewing trips. I think a couple of episodes before on Roundtable as well. And there are different places launching like festivals, like, for example, Linzhi in Xizang. I think their Peach Blossom Festival coincides with this Qingming Festival as well in the beginning of April. So for everybody that is wondering, where to go exactly for this public holiday, you have a lot of options out there. And so no matter where exactly this spring or this festival finds you, actually visiting a tomb of past loved ones or going on a train to different destinations, viewing flowers, or you just decided to simply stay still at your city, I think it is the time for you to feel the weight of where you come from and also the lightness of where you are going. And that is the beauty of Qingming Festival, really. You are sort of seeing the cycle of life and also aligning with the cycle of nature. And I hope everybody enjoy their Qingming Festival, enjoying their family gatherings or friends gatherings or trips outside.